All right, objective 1, solve one-step linear equations. In order to solve one-step linear equations, this is very basic, and you've learned this in Algebra 1, but I need to hit this just so we can move on to the harder objective of solving multi-step linear equations. Any equation is identified with an equal sign. Whenever you see an equal sign in math, that distinguishes that it is, in fact, an equation. In order to solve an equation, algebra is beautiful because it pairs numbers and letters. Typically, you need to get the letter or variable by itself, all alone. One-step equations mean that there's only one step to do that, getting the variable by itself. I will do number 2. Number 2 is just like number 3 and number 4, meaning that the variable is being divided by something. In number 2, it says 6 equals p divided by 10. In order to get the variable p by itself, I need to do the opposite of whatever the operation is that's encountering p. Right now it's being divided by 10, so I need to multiply by 10. Wait for it. Alright, sorry, I got interrupted. Anyways, p is being divided by 10, so I need to multiply by 10 on both sides of my equation, the equal sign, in order to get rid of the 10 and get p by itself. Multiplying by 10 cancels out the 10's on the right side, leaving me with just p on the right side. And then 10 times 6 on the left side is 60. And that is my final answer. Please get in the habit of squaring and arrowing your answers. Number 3 and 4 you can do on your own, and number 1 is very simple too. In order to get a variable by itself, you have to do the opposite operation of the numbers that exist around it. Let's move on to, at this point you can either pause the video and then do 1, 3, and 4, or move on to objective 2. No, why don't you leave 1, 3, and 4 alone for now and move on to objective 2. Objective 2, solving multi-step linear equations. This is vital. It's very, very important that you get this skill down. That's why I'm hitting it pretty hard on the first day of Algebra 2, because you will see multi-step equations the rest of the semester. And if you struggle with this skill, then the semester is just going to be a tough one. There's not a lot to say about that. So hopefully I set the mastery of 13 out of 15. If you reach anywhere from around that, you're doing pretty well. If it's lower than that, then you need to come see me for help. And we can go from there. With solving multi-step equations, I'm going to do, let's see, I'll do number 7. Number 7 is has 3 steps in it initially. There's more than just 2. My thought process, if I was going to do number 7, is that, again, I identify the equal sign is right here. So I'll circle that. You don't necessarily need to circle that, but I just want to identify that. There's a left side of the equation and the right side of the equation. You've heard this in Algebra 1, I'm sure, of balancing the equations out. I like to get all letters on one side and all numbers on the other side. But if any time on either the left side of the equation or the right side of the equation, there's like terms that need to be combined, you have to do that before you start moving things around. So on the left side of the equation, I see that there's an n, a 7, and a 3. The 7 and 3 are like terms, so I need to do the operations telling me to do and add them together before I start moving stuff around. So I will have on the left side now, n plus 7 plus 3 is 10, equals negative 5n minus 2. So anytime that step needs to happen, you need to go ahead and do that before you start moving things around. Now, from there, doesn't necessarily matter what way you move. Again, all you need to do is get letters or variables on one side, numbers on the other. What I mean by variables is, I agree negative 5n is a number and a variable, but I consider that to be a variable because they're paired together. And so I like to get rid of negatives anytime I can, so I'm going to add 5n to this side. And if I'm adding letters to this side, I also have to add them to this side. The whole point of doing that is it cancels out my variables on that side, and now I only have variables on the left side of my equal sign. So now on the left side I have 6n plus 10 equals a negative 2. Since I move the variables to the left side, that means I have to move the numbers, or the constant, to the right side. So in this case, the opposite of adding 10 is I have to subtract 10 to both sides. And up there I added 5n instead of subtracting 5n because it was a negative 5n, so I need to do the opposite of it. So negative 2 minus 10, and that goes away over here, so I'm left with 6n equals a negative 12. And then 6n is 6 and n are multiplying each other, so I need to divide it by 6 because the opposite of multiplication is division, and divide by 6. So finally I'm left with n equals negative 2. That math. If you can't do mental math as well, you can reference your calculator, but hopefully those skills develop over the semester as well. So go ahead and work through the rest of these problems. Again, your goal is 13 out of 15, including the one I just did. Anytime that on the left or right side of the equation there are like terms, like I'm looking at number 9 right now, anytime there's like terms on the left side of the equation, or the right side, but in this case it's the left, there's an a and a negative 4a. You have to combine those like terms before you start moving things around.